Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be doing tier list review as there have been a couple of changes, so I just wanted to give my opinions on those. And I really like making these types of videos just for all of us to come together and just share our thoughts. And I would love to know if you guys have actually pulled for Tribbie yourselves or if you're potentially skipping her for someone else. And if you guys enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. So here we are with Pridewind's tier list, and I believe there has been about 2 updates since the last time I've talked about Pridewind's tier list, since I know they moved a lot of the DPS characters, but then of course they also added Tribbie, which here she is, and as we can see she's doing very well, which I'll get to her soon and just sharing my thoughts on her now that I've been able to test her out now for a few weeks. And then also we see Aglaea went up, we have a couple DPS characters that have actually gone down, and Xueyi actually went up. Okay, that's pretty cool, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of drops here, which I would assume is due to just how the recent Memory of Chaos have been when it comes to just the more AoE-centric content. In the case of Aglaea, while she is a blast character, she is able to attack very frequently, and of course her attacks are very powerful when she is using her joint attacks with the Garment Maker. As we can see though, Aglaea did go up, which I do think Aglaea can be a tier 0 character, especially just with how powerful she is when it comes to the frequency of her attacks. I did use her in the MOC prior to the current one, which the current MOC, if we take a quick look here, what it does is at the start of each cycle, you will regenerate 28% energy for all ally characters, and this is huge for Aglaea as we can nicely take advantage of this to stay in Supreme state longer. Then on top of it, the energy regenerated can exceed the target's max energy, and then enables all memo sprites on the field to immediately take action again after their next action. So in the case of this, now the Garment Maker is actually going to be attacking more frequently as well, which can assist with even more energy gain for Aglaea. So this MOC in general is just very, very powerful for her. She is able to nicely take advantage of this. The additional energy is huge, and then of course also more memo sprite attacks is pretty good as well. But overall, in the case of Aglaea, I can see why they increased her rating. She's just doing very, very well right now, in especially Memory of Chaos. So I think this increase is fine. I'm actually way more curious to see how she will be a couple patches from now, if she'll still be up here in tier 0, or the MOC content might cater towards other archetypes a bit more. So I'm really curious just her future rating, honestly. I'm not too surprised once again that she is in tier 0. And real quick, I wanted to say thank you to Path to Nowhere for sponsoring today's video. Path to Nowhere is a visually stunning anime game with RPG and gacha elements set in a unique prison and crime world. Players take on the role of the Minos Brew crisis control chief, using special powers to manage dangerous yet captivating sinners and solve crises caused by superpowers. The game blends tower defense and real-time strategy, offering a variety of tactical gameplay options. And as for the characters in Path to Nowhere, 2 new characters would be Jelena and Pine. Additionally, there are new chapters for players to experience. As for new features, there will be new UI upgrades, first ever 4-star attire that allows players to have fun connections and interactions with characters. And as for the free-to-play friendliness of the game, new players receive 55 pulls upon logging in, free new chief attire, and the ability to get the new character Pine, the new free attire, and then lastly the free UI upgrade. To jump into this epic update, meet new characters, unlock tons of free rewards, and experience the unique and crime world of Path to Nowhere, make sure to check out my link in the description down below. And now let's carry on. Another thing we definitely should address here is Feixiao and Firefly dropping. So when it comes to Firefly in particular, I've always asked you guys just if you believe she's a tier 0 or a 0.5 character. Most people would debate whether or not they would believe she's tier 0 0.5. I personally think just depending on the MOC in general, she can perform still very, very well. It just ultimately, I feel like, comes down to what enemies she's fighting, because I believe in the previous Memory of Chaos, there were numerous showcases of her being able to actually get 0 cycles with low investment on the other supports. In the case of Feixiao, in the current Memory of Chaos, Feixiao is actually able to 0 cycle the first side. I have seen a couple showcases of that where Feixiao, if you were to use a no sustain Feixiao team, you can definitely 0 cycle the first side, which is very impressive in my opinion. The team would consist of Feixiao, March, Tribbie, and then Robin. In the case of Tribbie, she's really nice for being able to grant additional stacks of Flying Aureus for Feixiao as well. So that team is just incredibly powerful for a no sustain team, but even if you were to use a sustain, let's say you're fighting the Swarm Bug for instance, Feixiao should still be able to get a decent clear overall. So that's why I'm not too sure if I would actually agree with the drop. I maybe would have waited until the end of 3.1 to decide if they were going to drop her or not. In the case of Firefly, I haven't seen too many showcases, so I'm not too sure regarding her. I would actually love to know from you guys in the comments if you guys have seen showcases yourself, or if you've even played Firefly in the current MOC, which is the Strife of Creation MOC. I would love to know just how has her performance been. I do think though, just this Apex character category, even if it's a tier 0 or a 0.5 character, I think regardless, it's still a very impressive placement for them to be in. And then if we take a quick look at the rest, so Boothill and Yunli did drop. They maybe could have still kept him in the 0.5 category and just waited it out a little more in the case of Boothill, since once again, there are still clears that show that he is viable even in the current Memory of Chaos. It may be a little more difficult to plan out due to the fact that there are multiple enemies on the field. Then that would come down to just how you're playing him and then also what type of team you're using with him. So I'd love to know just regarding Boothill and Yunli if you guys agree with the drop right here. Take a quick look, Clara also did drop. And then as for Xueyi going up, I think that's great. I do still want some love for Xueyi though. I have mentioned Xueyi since Fugue came out. I think Fugue was a very nice addition to use alongside Xueyi, especially if you're running like, let's say a Super Break Xueyi. You could take advantage of Fugue's kit very nicely. So I feel like they could have just increased Xueyi a bit more. I don't think she honestly should be this low. I think that she should definitely be a bit higher. As for Blade, he did also drop. And I think what's interesting is that they actually are now doing double rankings. And what I mean by this is we look right here, Argenti is here. In the case of, let's say he was the main damage dealer, but then if Argenti is used as a support DPS, so secondary DPS on a team, he's actually in tier 1, which in this case, of course, he's being used alongside the Herda, which is a pretty nice synergy overall. So I think it's pretty cool that they're actually doing double tags for some characters. And when it comes to the damage over time characters, they are currently on watch to see just what's going to happen with them. I am waiting desperately for our next character. When it comes to damage over time, I feel like they need a character just so bad right now when it comes to the playstyle overall. Just give us something, please. But when it comes to Tribbie, now she's tier 0 in every category, and being able to test her extensively, I would honestly agree. The reason I agree with this is due to the fact that Tribbie does provide the old type res pen with her skill. And I'm just going to put on screen a quick example of how powerful old type res pen can be. So she's able to provide this, which gives her a very universal buff to a bunch of teams. And then on top of that, when she uses her ultimate, now she creates a zone where enemies are going to take 30% increased damage. On top of the fact that you're already giving all of your allies old type res pen, she honestly plays a pretty universal role, I would say, when it comes to pairing her alongside teams. I've mentioned this now in numerous videos, but for example, you can use her alongside the Herda. You can use her alongside Aglaea. You can use her alongside Feixiao, especially since in the case of follow-up attackers, Tribbie has her own follow-up attack. So now she can help with, for example, getting Flying Aureus stacks for Feixiao. Let's say you're using Topaz, now you can advance forward Numbi. So she's able to be nicely utilized on follow-up teams. You can technically also use her alongside Acheron. I've actually showcased this on my channel already. You can use her alongside Tingyun. You can use her alongside Yunli. Like, I can just keep going. You can use Tribbie alongside a lot of characters. And then of course there's going to be characters that further utilize her kit. For example, in the case of the Herda, since Tribbie has those follow-ups in her kit, now she can assist with getting Herda a bit more energy, as well as also stacking interpretation onto enemies. Plus with the high AoE frequency of the Herda teams, now Tribbie can benefit from this, from being able to get more energy, to be able to use her ultimate a bit more frequently. Plus you can equip her with Dance Dance Dance. She doesn't need her signature light cone to be a very viable option. And if you do equip her with DDD, what this allows you now is to also provide action advance for the team, as depending on what type of team you use, you are going to be able to get her a bunch of energy so that she's able to use her ultimate very frequently. And as a result, now she's going to be able to provide that additional action advance for the team, which can assist in the case of getting lower cycle clears. So I would say Tribbie has just a lot of viability when it comes to what she can provide for teams. And they did put her in the support DPS role, which I would assume is due to the fact that she is able to nicely contribute damage herself with her ultimate, as well as her follow follow-ups. I personally think I still would have put her honestly in the amplifier role, but even if she was an amplifier, I would have still had her, of course, in tier 0. I do think she is a very powerful pickup when it comes to what she provides, just her versatility overall. But let's say you were more so a low spender player, or even maybe a free-to-play player, and just want a character that is able to provide versatility for a bunch of your teams that you do want to play. Tribbie is a very nice option, I would say, for that, since if you do not have, let's say, Robin, May, Sunday, there's a lot of the premium supports. Tribbie is able to, of course, be a very nice option for you to consider, as she will be able to once again provide the ult type res pen, her zone being able to increase the damage that enemies take, and being able to contribute her own damage output, as she can help with dealing that additional bit of damage onto enemies. Plus, when her zone is active, enemies will also take that additional quantum damage as well. So Tribbie just overall has a very powerful kit, I would say, and is definitely worthy of the tier 0s. And she definitely also puts the harm in harmony, just because of the damage output that she can contribute as well, just with those follow-ups and her ultimate. For amplifier, I still agree with our tier 0s. 0.5, I would say I still agree with that. And now when we go down here, so Tingyun did drop. Not too sure if I fully agree with this. I think she could have honestly stayed in tier 1. I do still think Tingyun is a very nice option, especially for those that are budget players or even free-to-play players that may not have a lot of supportive options. Tingyun is still, I would say, an excellent option to consider using. While her buffs may not be as crazy as, for example, Sunday, it's still perfectly fine. She's a very nice 4-star option. I'll also say that in the case of Pela, she's a very, very nice 4-star option. Pela being able to reduce enemy defenses the way she does allows her to play in what I would say a universal role for a lot of teams, due to the fact that a lot of DPS characters can take advantage of the defense drops on enemies to be able to deal more damage to them. So I would say in the case of, let's say, a budget player, you don't have too many options, maybe you're free to play, whatever it may be, or even a newer player, Pela and Tingyun are very nice options to consider using. Of course, Remembrance Trailblazer is also free. They are amazing as well. They're going to be able to provide you mem support, which allows you now to deal true damage onto enemies, the 100% action advance once mems charges at 100%, and so on. And then if we take a look at the sustains, so Aventurine and Lingsha are still at the top. I have seen some actually make arguments for bumping up Huohuo once again, due to the fact that the recent characters that have been releasing very nicely utilize the energy she's able to provide. For example, Aglaea, and even in the case of Herta can still take advantage of Huohuo's ultimate as well, due to the fact that Herta does have a higher ultimate cost. So Huohuo can be nicely utilized there as well. And of course, if you do use her alongside Tribbie, for instance, Huohuo is going to be able to allow Tribbie to get closer to using her ultimate, and then since Tribbie is going to be able to launch that follow-up after an ally uses their ultimate, now she'll be able to gain a bit more additional energy from that as well. I've seen some arguments for Huohuo going up. And then in the case of Fuxuan, she did drop. I have seen some though that do play Fuxuan, just like in my Discord, for instance, or even while I'm streaming, is still able to nicely keep their teams alive. But I'm not too sure how it is in the current Memory of Chaos, since I haven't been experimenting too much with Fuxuan, honestly. For the case of Fuxuan, I'd actually love to know what you guys think regarding her. Do you guys think she should have dropped, or maybe stayed in 0.5? But overall, I think the sustain category is okay for the most part. And when it comes to the overall placements, I would say I 100% agree with Tribbie. The Aglaea increase I can understand. For some of the DPS drops, not too sure I agree with all of these, honestly. I think, once again, maybe we could have waited one more phase. Xueyi. I think Xueyi deserves a little more love, as I mentioned. I'd just love to know what you all think. Do you guys agree with some of these drops, or do you think some of the characters should have stayed where they were? For example, the Firefly in tier 0, Feixiao in tier 0, whatever it may be. I would just love to hear all of your thoughts. And yeah, I think that's honestly it for today's video. I'm sorry if my thoughts are a little scatterbrained today. I did wake up not too long ago, so my apologies for that. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I got to yap with you guys a little bit, ask you guys your opinions. And if you did enjoy this video, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope you all have a great one. Peace.